Hey, take a seat, take a seat.
You have too many accessories. I can't even walk.
A practical note. Last year it was an open book exam. So text and material and law collection was in one binder. The exam board changed the rules. That should be a closed book exam. So I cut it in two. So the content is the same. So if you purchased the law collection of a colleague student last year, then your only problem is that in the exam, only the black law collection is allowed with half of the material. So that is the practical message on the readers. And they are both available in the website. Yes?
Should we color the front of that back?
No, it's, let's say the color indicates sort of symbolically. Okay. What I want to try to do at the beginning of this course is to tell you the grand story once. And then all the subsequent weeks are further deliberations and elaborations of those topics. And the whole idea is that you make a drawing yourself and that you use that in the beginning of your notes system and basically each time tick done, 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 and at the end of 7 weeks you hit all the topics. Well, and that starts with economics. And I want you to mobilize existing knowledge on basic thinking on economics and or grab this as a last chance. So even those who were not too successful in skill 7 should, based on this drawing, for the rest of their life, understand what is the basics. The basics is we have households. And we have firms. And the firms pay wages, interest, dividends, profits, and rent to households. And then the households purchase the goods and the services of the firms. So this is the first circle of money. And in an ideal hypothetical world, this is all we need. Household and firms. All the rest takes away wealth. So if you need a state to keep an eye on this, someone should pay the state. There's quite often a combination of the firms and the household. So in whatever meeting you will be in the future, think of this first circle and contribute, as far as I'm concerned, to the idea to cut any other parts of the picture unless you get as close as possible to this one simple circle. But as of the settlements of societies in agricultural cultures 4,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, and the whole idea of sort of statehood and protection, safety, state responsibilities emerged. And a third player emerged, the government. With the consequence that we have to pay taxes, but the government is also recruiting households as civil servants, paying wages, interest, transfer payments, subsidies, child support, all kinds of subsidies for households. And the same, firms pay taxes and the government purchases goods and services from firms. Toilet paper, engineers who construct hospitals and schools and airports and roads, accounting firms who do the calculations, and so forth. And so the government is a consumer in that sense. They our need of goods and services produced by firms, electricity, garbage disposal, all kinds of goods and services. And this is a national economy. So if we realize that there are 192 or 93 members of the United Nations, world economy is basically this picture times 193. And if we realize that many states are basically federations, like India, like Brazil, like the United States of America, and then I always use the number 400 jurisdictions. United States 50, United Kingdom 3, you know, so if you add it up, and you have 400 jurisdictions, and then you have 400 times this picture. Not 6,000 times, not 3 times, roughly between 1 and 39 members of the United Nations, or 400. And the idea of an economy is that you are self-sufficient, so that there is enough agricultural firms who produce the food, and there are enough households to provide for the laborers, and that there's enough money in circulation to be used to function as an exchange tool, and that you're happy. And then the reality is that not all states are able to produce in an efficient way all the goods that exist. So somehow, in Germany, they were extremely excellent in producing BMWs, Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen, resulting in the neighboring Dutch economy that entrepreneurs thought, let's not start a car business. Let's import the goods of the neighbors. As the Germans think that we are pretty good at cheese, that sort of water substance with a yellow thing around, and we are pretty successful in exporting that cheese to other countries, who then are less active in investing and creating firms to make cheese. And there's one critical and complex item that we need to understand in connection with this drawing of a local economy and the connection to neighboring or other countries on the globe. And that is the concept of currency. Because the rest of the world, the German car makers in neighboring Germany, from the perspective of the Netherlands, they don't care what type of economy the consumer is, as long as you pay in euros. Because they have to pay their employees in euros and the steel and so forth. Well, Netherlands is happy because we have euros too. But neighboring England has no euros. So they have to develop a trick to translate pounds to euros. Otherwise they are not able to purchase Mercedes, Porsche, Audi and so forth. And we have to realize that transferring pounds to euro, or yen to euro, or dollars to whatever currency out there, is not a self-executing, self-explanatory thing. You need basically a sort of agreement between those two states that they allow the banks, who are sort of instrumental, to be located in either of the countries, to communicate with each other, and to allow, as states among each other, that a sort of exchange mechanism created. And that is a construct, a designed feature of world economy that is constantly redesigned, and among others through the work of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. G20 and other actors who are sort of concerned. Because there are no sort of economic rules that guarantee exchange rate. So the economics say, well, if the Germans export as many BMWs as that the UK exports Rolls-Royce to Germany, and then there's equally euros going out of Germany and pounds going into Germany, as vice versa, that the Germans need the pounds to purchase the Rolls-Royce, and vice versa. So from an economic perspective, it's basically that Mercedes gets pounds, and that another German says, I want to purchase those pounds for euros, and give me the pounds, and then I can go from Germany to the UK, and with the pounds I purchased, I buy the Rolls-Royce. And in the ideal picture, all the countries are exporting as much as they import. And for that reason, there's no economic concern about this sort of exchange rate. Because there's as much desire for euros as for pounds, and vice versa. And then it goes smooth. But we all know that many states in the world are so poorly designed from the beginning, in terms that some lunatic took a map and draw lines, that the people in between those lines were sort of still recuperating. Are we in one country together? And they're not at all busy with economy, but they're busy with fighting each other, let alone developing products that are worthwhile to export. And that means that if that country, let's say south of Sudan, or South Sudan, wants to import a Mercedes, you know, four-wheel drive truck, and then they are in need of euros. And how on earth do they get euros? Because no one is, other than maybe 2 tourists per year, is bringing euros to Sudan at this moment, because they are in war, or civil unrest, or unclarity about the safety situation. Let's put it there. And this is where finance and development case is. Because if you would say there's no artificial transfer of euros to South Sudan, and you would wait on the autonomous development of that state. I said, okay, we bring peace, then we teach them how to make kiwis and bananas, and then they start exporting the kiwis and bananas. With that they earn hard currency, and then they're allowed or able to purchase Mercedes with euros. And they did a calculation with Brazil and the United States of America. If Brazil, in an autonomous way, should get to the purchase power parity of the United States in enough dollars to purchase the US goods and services, that would take 146 years. And the drama is that during that 146 years, the United States of America progressed also 146 years. So you're chasing sort of a equal exchange rate that is moving away while you are approaching it. And the sort of idea is that you can intervene and say, with official development assistance, with supported and guaranteed foreign direct investment, we can sort of kickstart that economy. Pump in the money, create a functioning economy from scratch with knowledge of people who already were trained in building a car plant, and boom, create one, and then push the start button of the picture and say, now you start to export, import, and be in sort of balance together. So from a development perspective, and development as in the ability to purchase a Porsche or a BMW or a Mercedes or an iPhone or and so forth, then you need need to kickstart, let's say, 2/3 of all the economies on the globe, so that they're on a sort of level with the producers of those goods and services. And then it is an automatic pipe. A word that you met, I believe, in Quarter 7, Skill 7 is the invisible hand. Did you?
Yeah.
This beautiful invisible hand who makes this picture go smooth for the next 3,000 years, as long as you have it sort of equal footing. So one aspect of the financial development is that you bring in balance of the import and the export, the exchange rate, so that you have a chance to earn enough money in your local economy to import this thing. So that's one. Two, the actors. Who is who? We distinguish between international, regional, and national level. International level, United Nations, family of institutions, with the Economic and Social Committee, with the General Assembly, with the Secretariat, and with the specialized agencies or words like that that are used, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, arbitration institutions, and so forth. Then we have the regional level. So in Europe we have the European Union, we have the Council of Europe, with treaties and budget and investment things and standard setting. We have the Europe branch of the United Nations. So in Geneva, there's a European headquarters of the United Nations who look at the development of Europe. No one wants to know that because we think, well, EU. Yeah, but EU is just one of the regional organizations. In Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, we have them. And then we have the national actors, as in the national states. So those are sort of public actors. And then we have private actors. Private actors, vice versa, in the national field are national enterprises who are having engineers or advisors who can make bridges. Or you have transnational corporations and banks, like a European company. Remember corporate law, year 1, Societas Europea. So you have sort of regional entities, legal entities, who are commercially active. And you could say that the big companies, the top 10 companies, and many you do not know because they are sort of hidden because no one knows who is building hydroelectric dams and schools. They could be compared with international actors, as in they have branches in 150 countries and various headquarters and so forth. And then I make a distinction between creators and non-creators. So you have actors, legal entities who actually make things. Like in engineering, in construction, in making advice and so forth. And you have actors that are just financing. So the banks. So they have a business model that basically says, I have money, either from the state or from savings from households. And my task is to multiply that money. And I don't care whether there's a project here in The Hague or in South Sudan, as long as I get the money back for the time my government or consumer wants it back. And those are also on those three levels. So on the highest, the international level, we have the agencies around the International Monetary Fund. So the reading for next week is, who are they? Names like IDA and the like. They are on international level a finance institution. And it's not completely clear whether they are private or public, sort of hybrid. And then you have regional ones. So you have regional development banks. The Asian Development Bank, the European Development Bank, the African Development Bank, the American Development Bank. And then you have national banks, ABN, Rabo, ING, and so forth. So we have public actors on three levels. We have finance non-creator actors on three levels. And we have private actors and enterprises other than banks on national and regional level, and if you wish on international level. And we are not able in this course to introduce all of them. So we take a few as a sort of example for the others. And we can easily do so because the others are created according to the same lines. And copy-paste. I told you earlier, legal professionals are lazy dot. And if there are articles of incorporation of European Investment Bank or Development Bank, and the Asian colleagues say, give me a copy, and then they change the name, and then you have your Asian version, or the African version, or American version. Then we move to the legal instruments, and we look at three key instruments. The first one between those brackets are Resolution of Year 3, number 217, also known as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. A soft law instrument that influences our thinking on the wish list of global society. The wish list as in everybody is not only equal and no torture and access to justice, but all the social and economic rights are enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everybody is entitled to clean water, education, chances in life, jobs, houses, political influence, next to the classic ones like freedom of speech and religion and so forth. And I want to stress that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a fairly undisputed list of wishes. So there's some academic debate about, well, soft law, or it is not binding, or it's a Western complot, but all the countries agree, according to their own constitutions, that their citizens are entitled to all those goodies. They sometimes claim that according to their God, the road towards the goodies is different, but basically the content of the goals are basically agreed. And then the other one is the year 55, that's the year 2000, number 2, the General Assembly Resolution, also known as the Millennium Development Goals. The instrument in which the 192 members of the United Nations agreed on a top 10 of goals for the next 15 years, including eradicating poverty. And that resolution is the basis of subsequent instruments that were created in sort of nuclear summit type of summits, but this one not in The Hague, but in Monterrey in Mexico. It's the north of Mexico. It's a huge city. And there in 2001, 2002, the states implemented the Millennium Development Goals and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in making a recipe. How are we then collectively eradicating poverty and develop those countries? And the Monterrey Declaration and the subsequent Busan Declaration of 2012, which was a follow-up meeting in South Korea. And 2 weeks ago, they had a follow-up meeting of the Busan meeting in Mexico again. They are basically working on that same agenda. And that same agenda is this agenda. We mobilize domestic resources first. So before we send money, let's look at the original circle of households, firms, and the state. What can they do to kickstart their own economy? Step 1. Step 2, okay, let's mobilize international resources to kickstart those economy. 3, let's boost trade and tweak trade rules,